What happens when the greatest actress in Hollywood faces off against a talk show host who thinks he can walk all over anyone? The story you're about to hear will absolutely blow your mind. Tonight, we're diving deep into the explosive showdown between Meryl Streep and Jimmy Kimmel, a clash that ended with security literally escorting the three-time Oscar winner right off the set. Before we jump into this unbelievable tale, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button right now. Also, drop a comment below and tell me which celebrity you think would totally win in a debate against Jimmy Kimmel. Your answers might surprise us all. It was supposed to be a pretty standard appearance. Meryl Streep had agreed to come on Jimmy Kimmel Live to chat about her brand new movie, a powerful drama that really digs into how the media can manipulate us and the huge responsibility journalists carry. The wild part, the sheer irony of what was about to unfold, wasn't lost on anyone who witnessed it. As Meryl gracefully stepped onto the stage that evening, the audience absolutely erupted in their usual excited applause. She gave a warm wave, her signature radiant smile lighting up her face as she settled into the guest chair directly across from Jimmy. The camera started rolling, the studio audience quieted down, and Jimmy kicked things off with what seemed like typical late-night chat. "So, Meryl, it's really fantastic to have you back on the show," Jimmy said, his familiar grin spreading across his face. "I've just got to ask, in your new movie, you play a journalist who absolutely refuses to back down from powerful people. Is that something you personally connect with?" Meryl shifted just a bit in her chair, her expression turning thoughtful. "Well, Jimmy, I think anyone who lives in the public eye has those moments where they have to decide whether to speak the truth or just stay silent. It's really all about having the guts to stand firm on your principles, even when it's really uncomfortable." Jimmy's grin broadened, but there was something subtly different about it now, something that made the vibe in the studio shift almost imperceptibly. "That's super interesting, because I've definitely heard you have some pretty strong opinions about certain political figures. Care to share those with our audience tonight?" The question just hung in the air, almost like a direct challenge. Meryl's posture instantly straightened, and her voice took on a much more deliberate, measured tone. "Jimmy, I'm actually here to talk about my film and the very important themes it explores. I'd really prefer to keep the focus on the work itself." "Oh, come on, Meryl," Jimmy pressed, leaning forward in his chair with that same unsettling grin. "Our audience absolutely loves it when celebrities get political. Don't you think you kind of owe it to them to share your thoughts? After all, you've never been shy about your opinions before." There was something in Jimmy's voice that clearly suggested this wasn't going to be the friendly interview Meryl had anticipated. The studio audience seemed to feel the tension too, their energy shifting from excitement to something far more uneasy. "I think there's a big difference between having opinions and using someone's promotional appearance as a platform to put them on the spot," Meryl replied, her voice remaining calm but with a steely edge that anyone familiar with her incredible dramatic range would instantly recognize. "I came here tonight to discuss a film that genuinely explores the ethics of media responsibility. Perhaps we should focus on that." Jimmy let out a chuckle, but it wasn't his usual warm, easygoing laugh. "Media responsibility? That's rich coming from someone who lectures people from award show stages. Tell me, Meryl, do you honestly think celebrities should just stick to entertaining? Or do you truly believe you have a right to influence political discourse?" The question was so clearly designed to back her into a corner, and Meryl recognized it immediately. Her countless years of experience dealing with demanding directors and incredibly challenging roles had taught her exactly how to handle confrontation. But this felt different. This felt deeply personal. "I believe every single citizen has the right to express their views," she stated carefully. "But I also strongly believe in choosing the appropriate time and place for those discussions. A promotional interview about a film that explores journalistic integrity might not be the best venue for the kind of ambush you seem to be attempting." The word ambush seemed to hit Jimmy like a physical slap. His grin faltered for just a moment before reappearing, but now it looked more like a grimace. "Ambush? That's a pretty strong word, Meryl. I'm just asking questions. Isn't that what journalists do? I thought you'd appreciate that, given your new movie." There's a massive difference between asking questions and deliberately trying to create controversy for entertainment value, Meryl shot back, her voice still controlled, but with an unmistakable sharpness. Good journalists ask questions to inform and enlighten. They don't set traps for their guests. The studio had fallen remarkably quiet. Even the production crew, usually bustling with activity during commercial breaks, seemed completely frozen in place. Jimmy's expression was hardening, his media-trained friendliness starting to crack around the edges. "You know what, Meryl?" Jimmy said, his voice taking on a colder tone. "Maybe you're right. Maybe we should talk about your movie. Tell us about this character you play, this crusading journalist. Is she based on anyone in particular? Someone who perhaps thinks they're morally superior to everyone else?" Meryl's eyes flashed with something dangerous. "Are you suggesting that standing up for ethical journalism makes someone morally superior? Because if that's your position, I think you're proving the point of the film better than any promotional interview ever could." "I'm suggesting," Jimmy replied, his voice rising slightly, "that some people in this town think they can lecture everyone else while living in their ivory towers. Some people think their opinions matter more than everyone else's just because they can memorize lines and cry on cue." The insult was absolutely deliberate and cutting, designed to provoke exactly the reaction Jimmy seemed to be hoping for. But Meryl Streep hadn't become one of the most respected actresses of her generation by being easily baited. Instead of rising to anger, she leaned back in her chair and regarded Jimmy with the kind of look she might give a particularly disappointing student. "That's an interesting perspective from someone who makes jokes about people's personal lives for a living," she said quietly. "Tell me, Jimmy, when you're writing material that mocks someone's appearance, their relationships, their struggles, do you ever consider the human being behind the punchline? Or are they just content to you?" The question hit its mark. Jimmy's face flushed, and for a moment, his carefully constructed television persona slipped entirely. "At least I don't pretend to be something I'm not," he stammered. "At least I don't stand on stages and act like I'm saving the world while I cash multi-million-dollar paychecks." "And there it is," Meryl said, her voice cutting through the tension like a sharp blade. "The real Jimmy Kimmel. Not the friendly guy next door persona you've built your entire career on, but someone who apparently resents successful women having opinions. Someone who thinks that making money somehow disqualifies a person from caring about important issues." The accusation landed like a bomb in the studio. Jimmy's face went from flushed to pale in seconds, his mouth opening and closing as he struggled desperately to find a response that wouldn't make things even worse. But Meryl wasn't finished. "You want to talk about resentment?" Jimmy finally managed to sputter, his voice cracking slightly. "You come on my show, act like you're too good to answer simple questions, and then you have the nerve to psychoanalyze me on national television?" Meryl remained unnaturally calm, which seemed to infuriate Jimmy even more. "I'm not psychoanalyzing you, Jimmy. I'm responding to your behavior. You invited me here under the pretense of discussing my work, then immediately tried to corner me into making political statements you could turn into sound bites. When I declined to play along, you became hostile. That's not analysis, that's observation." "Hostile." Jimmy's voice was getting louder now, his professional composure completely abandoned. "You're the one who started throwing around accusations about ambushes and media responsibility. You're the one who decided to turn this into some kind of lecture about ethics." "Because that's what my film is about," Meryl replied, her voice never wavering from its measured tone. "You could have asked about the research I did for the role, the directors I worked with, the technical challenges of the production. Instead, you chose to make this personal. The question is why?" Jimmy leaned forward aggressively, his hands gripping the edge of his desk. "You know what your problem is, Meryl. You think being a good actress makes you a good person. You think because you can make people cry in a movie theater, that gives you the moral authority to tell everyone else how to live their lives." "I've never told anyone how to live their lives," Meryl responded evenly. "But I will defend my right to have opinions, just like any other citizen. The difference is, when you disagree with my opinions, you have a television show you can use to attack me. When I disagree with yours, I have to sit here and take it with a smile." The studio audience was now completely silent, watching this train wreck unfold with horrified fascination. Several crew members had stopped what they were doing entirely, sensing that they were witnessing something that would be talked about for years to come. Jimmy's laugh was bitter and harsh. "Oh, poor Meryl Streep, the victim of mean old Jimmy Kimmel. Do you hear yourself right now? You're one of the most powerful people in Hollywood, and you're sitting here acting like you're being oppressed because someone dared to ask you tough questions." Tough questions. Meryl's eyebrows rose slightly, the first tiny crack in her composed facade. "Is that what you call what you've been doing? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks more like a tantrum from someone who's upset that his guest won't perform on command." Perform on command? Jimmy's voice hit a higher pitch, his face now genuinely red with anger. "You're an actress, Meryl. Performing is literally your job. And right now, you're giving a masterclass in playing the victim." Meryl's expression hardened, and for the first time since the interview began, her voice carried a dangerous edge. "You know what, Jimmy? You're absolutely right. I am an actress. And as an actress, I can recognize bad acting when I see it. Your whole nice guy persona, this friendly late-night host character you play, it's all performance. And frankly, it's not a very convincing one." The insult hung in the air like a sword waiting to fall. Jimmy's mouth fell open, his face cycling through several different expressions as he processed what she had just said. When he finally found his voice, it was low and venomous. "At least I don't hide behind fake tears and pretend it's art. At least I don't manipulate people's emotions for profit and then act like I'm doing them a favor." Fake tears. Meryl's voice was deadly quiet now. "Is that what you think acting is? Manipulation for profit? That's a fascinating perspective from someone whose entire career is built on making fun of people who can't fight back." People who can't fight back. Jimmy shot to his feet, his chair rolling backward. "You're fighting back pretty well right now, aren't you? In fact, you seem to be enjoying this. Is this what you do, Meryl? Come on shows and create drama so people will talk about your movies." Meryl stood up as well, her posture radiating controlled fury. "No, Jimmy, this is what I do when someone tries to ambush me on television and then gets angry when I don't cooperate. This is what I do when someone mistakes their platform for power and their audience for validation." "My audience?" Jimmy gestured wildly toward the silent crowd. "These people came here to be entertained, not to watch you give a masterclass in condescension. They came here to laugh, not to be lectured by someone who thinks she's better than everyone else." "I have never said I'm better than anyone," Meryl replied, her voice rising for the first time. "But I am better than this. I'm better than sitting here while you try to tear me down for your audience's amusement. And if you had any integrity as a host, you'd be better than this too." Jimmy's face went white, then red, then white again. His hands were shaking slightly as he pointed at her. "Integrity? You want to talk about integrity? You come on my show, insult me, insult my audience, insult everything I have worked for, and then you talk about integrity." "I insulted your behavior, not you," Meryl corrected sharply. "There's a difference, though I understand why you might not see it. When someone's behavior is consistently problematic, it becomes hard to separate the person from the pattern." Consistently problematic. Jimmy's voice cracked again. "Lady, you don't know anything about me. You don't know what I've worked for, what I've sacrificed, what I've built. You sit in your mansion in the hills and judge people like me who actually connect with real Americans." Meryl's laugh was sharp and humorless. "Real Americans? Is that what you call the people who watch you mock celebrities and politicians every night? Because I've met real Americans, Jimmy. I've worked with them, learned from them, been inspired by them. And most of them have more class than what you're displaying right now." The comparison hit Jimmy like a physical blow. His entire body tensed, and when he spoke, his voice was barely controlled rage. "Class? You want to talk about class? Classy people don't come on someone else's show and act like they own the place. Classy people don't lecture their hosts about ethics and integrity. Classy people also don't try to humiliate their guests for ratings." Meryl shot back. "They don't use their platform to settle personal scores or work out their own insecurities. But apparently, we have different definitions of class." Jimmy stepped around his desk, moving closer to Meryl's chair. The studio security team, who had been watching nervously from the sidelines, began to shift their positions. You know what your problem is, Meryl. You've been surrounded by yes-men for so long. You've forgotten what it's like to be challenged. You've forgotten what it's like to be treated like a normal person instead of Hollywood royalty. And you've apparently forgotten what it's like to treat people with basic respect. Meryl countered, not backing down despite Jimmy's aggressive posture. You've been hiding behind comedy for so long. You think cruelty is just another punchline. Cruelty. Jimmy's voice was getting dangerously loud now. I'll show you cruelty. How about we talk about all the little people you've stepped on to get where you are? How about we discuss the assistants you fired, the crew members you've ignored? Stop. Meryl's voice cut through his rant like ice. Just stop. You don't know what you're talking about, and you're embarrassing yourself. This isn't comedy anymore, Jimmy. This isn't entertainment. This is just sad. The word sad seemed to break something fundamental in Jimmy Kimmel. His face contorted with rage, and for a moment, the veneer of television professionalism that had been cracking throughout the interview finally shattered completely. Sad, he screamed, his voice echoing through the stunned studio. You think I'm sad? I've built something here, something real. I connect with people every single night. I make them laugh. I make them feel better about their lives. What do? You pretend to be other people for money and act like it makes you important. Meryl stood perfectly still, watching Jimmy's meltdown with the clinical detachment of someone observing a case study. Jimmy, you're proving my point better than I ever could. Look at yourself right now. Look at how you're behaving in front of your audience, your crew, your cameras. Is this the person you want them to see? Don't you dare. Jimmy hissed, jabbing a finger in her direction. Don't you dare try to therapist me. You're not my mother. You're not my friend. You're just another entitled celebrity who thinks she can waltz onto my stage and tell me how to do my job. I'm not telling you how to do your job, Meryl replied calmly. I'm questioning whether what you're doing right now can even be called a job, because from where I'm standing, it looks more like a public breakdown. Jimmy's hands were visibly shaking now, his entire body radiating fury. A breakdown? A breakdown. The only thing breaking down here is your little act. The composed, dignified Meryl Streep routine. Well, guess what, Your Majesty? You're not in one of your precious art films now. This is real life, and in real life, actions have consequences. Yes, they do, Meryl agreed quietly. And the consequence of your actions tonight is that everyone watching will see exactly who you really are when the cameras are rolling, and you think you have power over someone. Power. Jimmy laughed maniacally. You want to see power? I have the power to end this interview right now. I have the power to make sure everyone knows what kind of person you really are. I have the power to. To what? Meryl interrupted, her voice cutting through his tirade like steel. To throw a tantrum on national television, to prove that you're exactly the kind of petty, insecure bully that people suspected you might be? Congratulations, Jimmy. You've really shown your power tonight. Jimmy's face went through a series of rapid color changes, finally settling on a deep purple. When he spoke, his voice was low and dangerous. Get off my stage. The studio fell into absolute silence. Even the cameras seemed to stop humming. Meryl tilted her head slightly, as if she hadn't heard correctly. Excuse me. You heard me. Jimmy snarled. Get off my stage. This is my show. This is my studio. And I want you gone now. Meryl's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her posture, something that suggested she was no longer just an actress playing a role, but a woman who had reached the absolute limit of her patience. Your stage, she said quietly. This isn't your stage, Jimmy. This is television. This belongs to the network, to the advertisers, to the viewers. You're just the person they pay to sit behind that desk, and right now, you're doing a terrible job of it. Security. Jimmy bellowed, his voice cracking on the word. I want her removed from my studio immediately. I want her escorted out of here right now. Several large men in dark suits began moving toward the stage area, their faces professionally neutral, but their discomfort obvious. This was clearly not a situation they had been trained for, and their hesitation showed. Meryl watched them approach with the same calm composure she had maintained throughout the entire ordeal. Are you seriously having me removed from a television studio because I wouldn't let you bully me? Because I called out your unprofessional behavior? This is your solution. My solution, Jimmy spat, is to remove toxic people from my environment. My solution is to not let entitled celebrities think they can come on my show and disrespect me, my audience, and everything I've worked for. Toxic. Meryl's voice carried a note of genuine amazement. Jimmy, I came here to talk about a movie. You're the one who turned this into a political ambush. You're the one who made personal attacks. You're the one who's been screaming and carrying on like a child. And I'm the toxic one. The security guards had reached the stage now, but they seemed uncertain about how to proceed. Removing a guest from a talk show, especially one of Meryl Streep's stature, was not something that happened every day. They looked between Jimmy and Meryl, clearly hoping someone would defuse the situation. Jimmy noticed their hesitation, and his rage seemed to intensify. Did I stutter? I said, remove her from my studio. She's trespassing. She's disrupting my show. I'm sitting in a chair answering questions. Meryl interrupted calmly. The only person disrupting your show is you. The only person making a scene is you. The only person who's going to regret this tomorrow morning is you. I'll never regret getting rid of a pretentious, condescending, self-righteous Jimmy. Meryl's voice cut through his rant with surgical precision. Stop talking. You're embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing your show, and you're embarrassing everyone who works for you. Look around. Look at your audience. Look at your crew. Do you see admiration? Do you see support? Or do you see people who are horrified by what you've become tonight? Jimmy's head swiveled around the studio, taking in the faces of his audience, his production team, his band. What he saw there seemed to drain some of the fight out of him, but it also seemed to make him more desperate. Get her out, he said to the security guards, his voice now a strained whisper. Please, just get her out of here. Meryl stood up slowly, gathering her purse with deliberate dignity. I'll save you the trouble, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the silent studio. I wouldn't stay on this stage another minute if you paid me. But I want everyone here to remember what they witnessed tonight. They saw a professional woman come here to do her job, and they saw a man in power try to humiliate her when she wouldn't play along with his games. She turned to face the audience directly, ignoring Jimmy completely. You saw someone use their platform not to entertain or inform, but to attack. You saw someone confuse having a microphone with having authority. And you saw what happens when someone like that gets challenged by someone who refuses to be intimidated. Are you finished? Jimmy asked weakly, his earlier fury now replaced by something that looked almost like defeat. Meryl looked at him for a long moment, and when she spoke, her voice was almost pitying. I'm finished, Jimmy. The question is, are you? Because after tonight, after everyone sees how you behave when you don't get your way, I think a lot of people are going to be asking themselves whether they want to watch someone who treats guests like this. She walked toward the exit with perfect posture, her head held high. As she reached the edge of the stage, she turned back one final time. Good luck explaining this to your bosses tomorrow, she said quietly. Then she was gone, leaving Jimmy standing alone on his stage, facing a silent audience and a crew of people who looked like they wished they could disappear. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every second of Jimmy's humiliation, every moment of his realization that he had just made the biggest mistake of his career. And somewhere in the control room, a producer was already on the phone, trying desperately to figure out how to salvage what was left of the show. But it was too late. The damage was done, and everyone knew it. So, what do you think? Could any other celebrity have handled Jimmy Kimmel's attack as masterfully as Meryl Streep did that night? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more shocking celebrity stories that you won't hear anywhere else. You won't want to miss our next video. It's going to be even more jaw-dropping.